basic components now of our airplane. And we put together a real cool animation to kind of show that to you guys at a high quality level. Let's start with the front of our airplane and start with our nose. Our nose is made up, you can see the cone there, that's our spinner, our propeller, and the big part there that you would call the hood, well, it's not a hood, it is the cowling on an airplane is what it's called, and of course contains our engine. We take the cowling off to do our oil changes and engine work. Now back behind that, and part of that is encompassed in what's called the fuselage. The fuselage is really the body of our airplane. It doesn't contain the wings or anything like that, but the fuselage is really the body of our airplane. Let's look at our airplane from a top-down view now. And you can see the wings kind of have a sweep to them. They're not a perfect square like you would think. When we get out towards the end, they kind of sweep forward. This is for better roll and stability in our actual aircraft. Now, if we look at the front of that wing, the front of our wing is called the leading edge, which you can see. So the wind impacts that leading edge. Now, the animation you're seeing is for a high wing aircraft. There are also low wing aircraft like you can see there, where the wings are underneath a little bit of the fuselage. Notice that the low wing aircraft has what's called dihedral. Dihedral is, see how the wings kind of V up more than they do on the high wing aircraft? That's wing dihedral, which adds stability that way. And there's pros and cons to both high wing and low wing aircraft, which I'm sure you'll learn about. Now, we talked about that leading edge of the wing. Well, our wing is cambered. It actually has a curvature to it. We're going to talk about that in future lessons that are coming up, don't worry. But the air literally flows over our cambered wing. It goes straight underneath and has a curvature to it, which creates an area of low pressure and literally sucks us up into the air is how we generate lift. More details on lift coming up, but just want to certainly introduce that subject now. Now, let's go ahead and look at top down again, and let's look, you'll see inside, closest to our fuselage, we have our flaps. Our flaps really work as like our speed brakes on an aircraft. Remember when you were a kid and you'd hang your hand out the window and create that drag? Well, our flaps work the same way. They put a surface out there to create some drag. Still looking at our top-down animation, outside of that, further away, you'll see our ailerons. Our ailerons allow for our rolling type motion there, and they work opposite one another. Now, let's take a look at those a little bit closer. Let's take a look at the flaps, and you can see how the flaps come down and return back to their neutral position. You can see how they can create some drag, just like hanging your hand out of the car window when you're a kid. Let's now look at our ailerons too, and let's put the yoke up there so you can see that how my yoke inputs are moving my ailerons. One aileron goes up, the other aileron goes down, which allows our aircraft to roll and really starts that turning process. Let's work our way back of our aircraft back to what's called the tail. That whole section there is really called the tail. Now, on our tail, it's broken up into a few parts. We first have our vertical stabilizer, and then we have our horizontal stabilizer. Now, on that vertical stabilizer, we have our rudder. Just like a rudder in a boat, it helps us to yaw. So our rudder controls our yawing motion. You'd use a little aileron, a little rudder to make a nice coordinated turn. You use a little bit of both. We control our rudder, as you'll see, with our feet, with our rudder pedals. And as we move those pedals, our rudder turns as well, so we can see that. And then lastly, on our tail, on our horizontal stabilizer, we have our elevator. Just like an elevator in a building helps us to go up and down, the elevator in the aircraft does the same thing. By pushing the yoke forward to go down, pulling the yoke backwards to go up, we move that elevator. And that's really it. That's the big picture, introducing some of these subject of parts of the airplane. Maybe I went a little fast, but each of these parts have their own real dedicated section in the upcoming videos. We're going to learn more about those, but it's certainly a great way to introduce the topic and introduce